Hello there and welcome for another free course today. Today we're going to be talking about how to overcome a career setback. Now, this is something that can happen to pretty much everyone. So we're talking about termination, we're talking about job hopping, we're talking about a variety of things that could really keep you unemployed. Okay, so essentially, I want to start with two key principles that I think are very, very important, because you want to understand how I tackle these with my private clients. By the way, my name is Hamza Zouhali, in case you don't know me. I'm a career coach, and one of the things that I do is that I help job seekers overcome these challenges. So two key principles basically is that, number one, first goal of a CV is to attract recruiters' phone calls or emails. Basically, the first goal of a CV is really to generate a sort of, contact with a recruiter. So if you receive a phone call, if you receive an email, if people are interested in your profile, then this is the true measure of your CV, not the way it looks, not what so-and-so told you, not what it says on this video. No. The true measure of your CV is really about results, okay? Is if you are able to attract recruiters' phone calls and emails, okay? Now, the first purpose of a job interview is really to reassure the employer. Now, remember, this is a career setback. We're talking about termination. We're talking about long career breaks. We're talking about perhaps job hopping, having maybe a little bit of too many jobs in a short space of time. We're talking about these things that could keep you unemployed if you're not careful. I use these two principles that you're seeing now on the CV to attract employer phone calls. And on the interview, I will give you some scripts that will help you overcome these challenges during the interview, okay? So hopefully you will see also that what I'm trying to do is to avoid to try and settle the issue at the CV level. If the issue is not settled at the CV level, at least I'm trying to attract the employer phone call, and I will give you a script for the job interview so that you can overcome these. Okay, so let's begin. The 4 types of career accidents that could keep you unemployed are: number 1, the long period of unemployment. Why? Well, purely because if you don't put a reason to that, if you don't tell people why on your CV, then what it says is, hey, no one wants, I'm unwanted, so you shouldn't even call me. There is a problem there. Why is it that someone hasn't been working for 2 years, 6 years, 1 year, 10 years? Why is it? Obviously, if you don't put anything, then immediately it shows you have something to hide. So remember, the employer is very suspicious when he goes through a lot of CVs. He's not going to want to interview anyone. He wants to interview very, very specific people. The ones that are actually going to be screened in, that are going to sort of have a CV that's reassuring. So the one thing that you need to do is to make sure, if you have a long period of unemployment, you actually put a reason for that. We will tackle this in a second, of course. Number 2, termination. Now, this could happen to anyone. This is very, very important. It's not because you got terminated from a role that you're no good. It could be for a variety of reasons. It could be also because perhaps that termination made you stronger afterward. But please, 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 don't think negatively about yourself, about your career, about your profile, about your self-confidence, self-esteem if you've been terminated. I'm an employer myself, and I had to terminate a few people. And sometimes, once I don't think I made the right choice. It's always a difficult call to terminate an employee, because you always think, hang on, is it the right thing to do or not? I've already invested. So I'm not, don't consider that a termination is necessarily reflects bad on you. It's the reason of this termination and what you do after that will reflect good or bad. Okay, so we'll talk about this. Number 3, job hopping. Sometimes people change jobs way too often. And as you will see in the third point, when we'll tackle the third point, usually job hopping is because people find better packages, better salaries in the next job. And the sort of red flag, the sort of feeling that it could give is, hang on, maybe this person is so money driven that he will leave us as soon as he finds something that pays a little bit more. Usually the case, okay? So of course, it doesn't make the employer reassured, okay? So of course, we're going to talk about what to do on a CV and how to answer any question in relation to that during the interview. And finally, the fourth point that we will be talking about, and these are 4 types of career setbacks, is when you have had a career that has had too many career changes. So at some point you were a treasurer, and then you went to business development, and then you went to, and it's very different. It's not, it doesn't have any connection or any clear connection with one another. This could definitely make the employer feel, hang on, this person doesn't know what he wants. He's obviously not going to stay in our company because maybe he doesn't love that. Maybe he's going to change his mind as well. This is the history, the track record I'm seeing now. So it makes the employer a little bit anxious. So let's tackle each of these points. We begin by long-term unemployment. So if you've been unemployed for a while, you have to know that you have good and bad unemployment. Good unemployment is when you have a normal, logical reason that anyone can understand. So this is okay, completely okay. Please, oftentimes when people, for example, go through a maternity break and after 2, 3, 5 years, they want to get back to their career, they feel bad. They feel bad. And you shouldn't, because anyone understands that. It's completely okay. Now, I'm not saying you're going to be competing at the same level as someone that's already doing your job, that's obviously been working while you were on maternity break. I'm not saying that. I'm going to say that you obviously have, an extra thing in the equation to deal with, but it's not something you should hide on your CV, okay? So logical reasons like maternity break, or if you've been traveling the world for 1 year, or if you cared perhaps for a parent of yours, or if you went back to pursue your studies, you've done a master's degree or whatever, or any certification, that's okay. The only thing I will ask you to make sure you mention it on your CV. Make sure that this period of unemployment actually is presented as if it's a real occupation, okay? Don't leave it blank, because what you do when you leave it blank is that you allow the recruiter or the employer to say, I wonder what happened there. That's obviously not attractive. That's obviously, if it was something relevant, he or she would have put that, okay? So if she's hiding it, if she's not mentioning it, I'm anxious, I'm not going to go there. That's the mindset of employees. So what you want to do is to actually say, when it is a maternity break, or when you've been traveling the world or whatever, just say between this date and this date, this is what I've been doing, okay? Number 2, the way you present is that even if you're on a maternity break, even if it's really difficult, try to get busy. Try to get busy and do something, even if it's half an hour a day, 1 hour a day, it doesn't matter. You can do freelancing, part-time, temp, volunteering, you can write articles, you can do things, that doesn't necessarily require a lot of hard work. But the most important thing, you see, oftentimes long-term unemployed, professionals, they sometimes do those things while they're unemployed, but it has no relevancy to their career. So, for example, I know a lot of people that are actually doing tutoring, and they are accountants. Okay, that's nice, but helping children, for example, learn French doesn't really add any value when you actually create a position for this period of employment. But if you were to actually do something, then make sure it is relevant to your career. So if you do freelancing, if you do even volunteering, any type of work, make sure it's in continuation, it's in relevance to the rest of your career. Otherwise, it doesn't add value. So what if, the employer now asks you what happened? during this period. You can say, for example, that you've left so-and-so on the 12th of March 2017, and you decided to take a step back for 18 months to look after your two children. During that time, you can say, I have also been pursuing XYZ or studying XYZ or freelancing for XYZ. 3 months ago, we hired. Now, this is important. This part is important because I'm going to show the employer that I no longer have any reason to avoid working. I will no longer remain in this situation now because my situation, of unemployment does not need to exist anymore. So what I say is that, hey, 3 months ago we hired a full-time nanny because I have 2 kids, right? So I don't want the employer to worry about this because he's going to think, oh, she's got 2 kids, so she's probably going to want to finish early. She's going to be talking about part-time. She's going to be, and you don't want that. So you want to reassure the employer and say, hey, 3 months I hired a full-time nanny and I started actively looking for work again since then. Although I did have a few interviews, I'm very selective about the type of company and role that I want, obviously, because I'm looking at a few years down the line now. You see, I'm trying to reassure the employer. So if I was unemployed, there's a reason. I'm giving the reason, but on top of this, I'm saying, hey, we have a nanny, so there's no more reason I should remain unemployed. You don't have to worry, Mr. Employer. That's what I'm communicating to the employer. Does it make sense? So I hope this is helpful. Number 2, when you are terminated from your previous role. Now, this happens, and come on, this is not the end of the world. Please take it easy. Please, please, please take it easy. You know what? The feeling of being unwanted at a company is obviously could be something that shakes you a little bit, that could be traumatizing. Fact, I agree, but you'll bounce back. You'll bounce back stronger. Trust me on that. And this is not the end of the world. A lot of people get let go, and it doesn't reflect necessarily badly on you. Because what reflects bad on you is the reason why you were let go. What reflects, good or bad is the reason. It really is the most important thing. So what advice you put on your CV? Now, this is the part where I might have a few people that completely disagree with me, and it's okay. I'm not trying to impose my view on you, but this is what I've been doing with my clients, and it worked. I use the first key principle. The first key principle is that my CV is here to attract employer phone calls, period. If my role has ended, it went from a permanent position into a temporary one, okay? So it's not a permanent one because it's no longer there. It became a temporary one, whether it's been 3 months, 6 months, or, if it's been less than 1 year, I would say that this is a temp. I would add on my CV that this is a temp role. Why? Because employers are anxious. And if you just say, well, it just stopped here, it shows that you resign, it shows that you've been terminated, it allows the employer's imagination to go wild, to the employer to assume things. You don't want that, especially if you have sort of 6 months gap since then. You want to add temporary role. You want to always put a reason. Remember, your biggest enemy is the fact that you don't put reasons on your CV. That is the #1 thing you need to tackle. My view is, if you're no longer there, it was a temporary role. I'm not saying it was a temporary contract. I'm saying the truth, which is a temporary role, okay? So that's what I will do, because I want to attract employer phone calls and have a chance to explain my side of the story, okay? So you're not going to lie during the job interview, but you're going to have a chance to explain your side of the story instead of having the recruiter assume anything, okay? Number 2, I would also immediately collect recommendation. And I say immediately because it's not too late. If you haven't done it, please do it. But ex-colleagues, supervisors, etc., people that you get on well with, you want to ask them, please put a recommendation on LinkedIn about this role, because this role, could be that the recruiter is going to dig in a little bit more. It could be that he's going to challenge you a little bit more. So you better be ready. So you better show that actually, okay, I was terminated, but look, I've done good things, and this is where you write on your CVs things like results, for example, really quantifiable achievements. But on top of this, you could say, actually, there's quite a few people that could praise from me, that could sort of say good things about me and about my role there. You can find some of these recommendations on my LinkedIn profile. Don't worry, he already checked. So very important to collect recommendations. Questions. The recruiter or the employer might ask you, hey, what happened at your role with ABC Corp? And this is what you need to say. Now, I'm going to give you the script, but what you want to do is make sure your answer does not reflect two things. What you want to make sure your answer does not reflect bitterness, and make sure your answer does not reflect incompetence. Bitterness means that there's problems there. It's not solved yet in here. It's not fixed yet. You haven't accepted it yet. You're still, in conflict internally, and the employer is not attracted by someone that hasn't been sort of okay with the situation. That's actually repulsive, okay? Number two, incompetent. If you've been let go for incompetence, you need to reassure the employer that, this is no longer the case. So this is what I will do. I would say, hey, to be honest, this is a good company, but despite having achieved XYZ and XYZ during the last 3 months, the management decided that it wasn't enough and decided to end my role there due to the fact that I was not proficient enough on Excel. I'm making this up. So to make sure this situation would never happen again, I've actually been pursuing a certification in Excel or taking advanced courses on the topic. You see, what I'm saying is, yes, was terminated. I'm not going to give you all the detail, and then I told him, and then he told me, and then he said this, and then he did that. No one cares. Honestly, no one cares. The employer only cares about himself. So you just want to tell him, here's the fact that was let go for, okay? Before that, I'm going to say, hey, despite my results or my achievements being this and that, okay? So I have done, good things there. This is why I was let go for this specific point. And what did you do so that you become competent in this? So if you say, yeah, hopefully, we'll get better later, or hopefully, Excel, I'll learn it on the next job. Good luck with that. You want to fix that. That's all. But I'm not saying this is the perfect answer, but honestly, this is a much better answer than a lot of answers I've heard in my career. So make sure you learn this script. You can pause this video anytime. I really hope this is going to help you. Obviously, if these scripts and if this course is helping you, please share it. Please like it. Please comment. I absolutely, this is the only way to say thank you to me, actually, because when I see that, it just feels like we're doing something wrong with Thierry. Okay, so something right, sorry. It just feels we're doing something right with Thierry. So number 3, too many jobs in a short space of time. That's called job hopping. And oftentimes this is because you receive an offer that's better than the current one, and you keep on moving. And sometimes you stay 3 months in a job, sometimes you stay 9 months, sometimes a year and a half. And after a while, you're like, oh God, she's always moving. Oh God. So look, on the CV writing part, I still advise you to put temporary role. Again, I'm not saying temporary contract. I'm saying this was a temporary role, which was a fact. But what I'm hoping to achieve by doing this is to let you off the hook, to get the employer or the recruiter to think, okay, it was a temporary role. Now, some roles, you can't do temporary. It's very hard. So for example, sales roles, very difficult to do temporary, because sales roles are those roles where first year is a lot of investment in order to really get to where we want to be in the second year. So it's not really, but if you have been on admin support roles, on technical roles, on like programming or IT, engineering, whatever, these are possible. Temporals are possible. So just be careful, because not all the jobs could be sort of temporary roles. Okay. Number 2, You could also say that you were headhunted for the next role. This shows that you are in demand, and this is good. Again, you must add some of these things on your CV. Don't leave it blank. Don't leave it blank. That's very, very important. Sometimes people even have short experiences that are truly temporary contracts, but they don't say anything. They don't say anything. So that's very, very important. So sometimes people go through internship and they don't say anything. They just say, oh, from March until June, I was doing that. Well, it just looks like you're not really stable. Oh, that was an internship. Add it on your CV. Don't allow the recruiter to guess, okay? And plus, what I advise is to try as much as possible to bring several roles under one experience, as much as possible. So if you've had temporary contracts, real temporary contracts, 3 months here, 6 months there, etc., and you've been through a temporary agency, that's easy because you can put temporary agency, the name of the temporary agency, and then you can say serving clients, serving various clients such as so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so. And then you can describe the main role. You don't have to say, okay, you know, you can even say company A, 3 months, company B, 6 months, that's okay, but you can have one description, okay? And the description would be, you know, would span for 2-3 years or 1.5 years or whatever. It would not look like you've done small bites here and there, that you've changed jobs so many times. And you can try to do that as well for other roles. So for example, you can say, I've had several roles within, you know, several temporary roles, serving clients, You can try to do that too. See what works best for you. It really depends on your career and what you do actually. So interview questions. Why have you left this or that job? You know, for sure they're going to ask you. Look, what's important is that if you haven't been able to sort of deflect this question during the CV writing, if none of my ideas fit what you want, what's important is that you prepare for this question, okay? Remember, actually, the fact that you've left company A or company B, they don't care. Recruiters don't care about this. I know this is a question. Why did they ask it if they don't care? They don't. What they do care about is why would that be different this time with their company? That's what they care about. They don't care about what happened before. The only reason they ask you why it happened before is to see if before is similar to their company. If the company you've left, for whatever reason, is similar to their company, because they could assume that obviously this time might be the same, okay? So what's really important is that you don't fall into the trap of, oh, why have you left company A? Why have you left company B? What about company C? Because at the end, you will give the feeling that, oh, this person seems to always have a reason. Somehow she's always hopping jobs, she's always moving, there's always a good reason. It will not reassure the recruiter. So instead, when you have this question, remember that the true question is, why would that be different this time around? Why would that be different in my company? You need to reassure, remember principle number 2, a job interviews to reassure employers, okay? So you need to reassure employers that this time is going to be different. You need to do your best. These are not easy situations to handle. So I hope that what I'm offering is actually adding value to you. Please make sure you comment, obviously, if it does. I'm really curious. First, you want to bring all the job hoppings under one reason. You don't want to give tons of reasons because it doesn't matter. You know, it's like, oh, why have you left company A? It's just that, yeah, I was headhunted. Why have you left company B? Yeah, it's just that it wasn't really a fit for my career. Why have you left company C? Yeah, it's just that they didn't pay my salary. Okay, but you know, somehow it looks like you're always right and they're all wrong. That doesn't make you reassure them, okay? That it's not reassuring. That makes the employer obviously wary, okay? But to take responsibility. It's not their fault, it's yours. Because if you're not able to do that, then the employer is not going to be reassured at all. If you're able to take responsibility and show that you actually learned something, that this is now done, you're now changing, then this is where you might salvage this situation. So say how it is different now. What's different? Remember, why would that be different this time around is the true question that they are answering in their head. So here's what I would say if I was you during an interview. I would say something like that. So why have you left company A? That's right, actually, and I've left, you know, not just company A. I've had short experiences in the past year or two, and to be honest, one of my biggest challenges in the past 2 years was the fact that I was just not sure how to qualify whether a role would be a good fit for me or not. To tell you the truth, this was not making me happy, as you can imagine, because I constantly felt disappointed, and it wasn't fair to employers either. So one of the things that I did was to really identify a few criteria that would actually make me know in advance whether a role would be a good fit for me or not. Of course, all of these experiences made this self-reflection easier. And I now have a series of questions that I will hopefully have a chance to ask you at the end of our interview today, if that's okay with you, of course. What happened? So what I'm trying to do here is to say, yeah, it's not about company A. As you probably noticed, I've had very short experiences. Bringing them all together under one roof, okay? I'm going to give you one reason. There's no point falling into the trap of what about this company? What about this company? Okay? And then one of my biggest challenges, see, it's not the employer fault. It's you that didn't have the tools, the maturity, the questions, the, you know, whatever, to actually identify if a role was really for you or not. So now, you know, that I had these experiences, I had time to reflect, to experiment, and I learned from this, and I devised a series of questions that I use now in order to select the right opportunity for my career. And this is how employers could be reassured that this time is not going to happen. And plus, you are deflecting this question towards the end of the interview. So you're actually finishing, you're not sort of staying in the answer. You're actually transitioning towards something else, because you're saying, you know, I now have a series of key questions that I will hopefully have a chance to ask you at the end of our interview today. That's okay with you, of course. See, this is a question. So but the other person might say, yeah, sure, yeah, that's okay. That's absolutely fine. No worries at all. Okay, so I hope it makes sense. Now, in regards to the point number 4, too many career changes. It happens more often than you would believe, actually. It really happens a lot. People that are usually good networkers, that usually meet a lot of people, that have this pleasant, attractive personality, they usually find themselves offered a few opportunities. And the problem is that they say yes too many times. And after a while, after 5 years, 10 years, they show a variety of different roles, and it's all over the place. Now, this could be, you know, obviously make the employer anxious, because he might think, hang on, this person doesn't know what she wants. She's doing everything. She's doing this, after she does that, etc., etc. So what's important is that you tackle it on those 2 stages, the CV writing and hopefully the job interview. Okay, and this is my final example. You've been so patient. Thank you so much. If you're still watching, by the way, that's really nice. CV writing, optimize, subcategorize each experience. So what I do is that I take my client's CV, and what I do is that I try to look at, okay, where do we want to go? We want to go into a career as, I'm making this up now, we want to go into a career as a business development manager. All right, okay, cool. You want to go to a career as a business development manager, that's fine. Now, in regards to the role, let's say I'm dealing with someone that has been an accountant, let's say I'm dealing with someone that's been a teacher, and let's say I'm dealing with someone also that's been a business developer. And this all in the last 5 years. Okay, so obviously I'm a little bit confused here, okay? So what I do is that I take the accountant role and I start asking this question, a few questions actually, to the person. And I say, hey, as an accountant, you know, have you ever had to convince anyone? Yeah, I always had to convince, I'm making this up, investors, or I always had to do this or whatever, or convince my management, or convince on the budget, etc., etc. Okay, well, what about have you ever had to sell an idea or make a proposal? And I'll do the same with teachers. Have you ever had to convince? And then I'm gonna have sort of subcategories in each role, where I'm actually trying to put a lot of keywords, relevant keywords about the business development role. So I'm actually trying to put the words like negotiated, convinced, converted, etc., etc., in each of these roles. So I'm trying to actually put forth the key skills so that there's a common thread throughout my career. That's what I call optimizing and subcategorizing. Okay. Now, in regards to the second part, is that I will also add brackets. Oftentimes, when people work in small companies, they have a specific role, and after 6 months, 1 year, it changes. They actually, the job title doesn't change, but they start doing things that are different. I have one of my clients, for example, he started as a technician, but you know what? His employer gave him a chance to do some cold calling and to see if he wanted to develop into a business developer. And as he was doing, basically installing PIBX and sort of telephone systems, what he did as well, while he had a job title as a technician, is that he contacted a few prospects, a few clients. He called a few clients, tried to organize a few meetings. Now, you see, when we knew that, we actually separated his role as a technician, of course, in two subcategories, the business development part and the technical part. But on top of this, we added a bracket next to technician that said, we're quickly given business development responsibility, or / business development role included, or whatever. You see, what we're doing is that we're indicating to the recruiter, hey, I know technician, and then you moved on to business development, but actually I was doing business development here. So I'm adding a bracket to actually give more detail about the role. Sometimes this changes as well with companies. Some roles are called role A. So for example, human capital manager, and in other companies it's called HR manager. So what I do is if I'm in a market where they call it HR manager, for example, I would make sure I add next to human capital manager, I would make sure I add a bracket that says, in charge of the entire human resources department. I'm making this up. You see, because it adds that common thread. It adds that common keywords, okay? I hope it makes sense. You can't overdo it. It's like everything, you can't overdo it because it would kind of, be too much. The interview question, if someone says anything regards to that, it would be along the lines of, hey, it looks like you've been in very different roles throughout your career. May I ask you how come? Or throughout the past 2 years, may I ask you how come? Or 5 years? You could say, hey, that's right, actually. And to be honest, one of my biggest concerns in the past 2 years was the fact that I was just not sure which career path would be the best fit. And so when approached for these roles, as I did not have any specific career path in mind, I think I said yes too quickly. Take responsibility. To be frank, and look, I'm actually giving one reason for all the roles that I've had, okay? So I'm not giving a specific reason for each. To be frank, despite strong results in each of these roles, these constant changes were not making me happy, and I wasn't really fair to employers. You see, despite strong results here, because on my CV, I'm also going to showcase my results, a strong track record. It doesn't matter if I only stayed 9 months in this role and 6 months in this role, I still want to put some achievements there, okay? That's very, very important. So despite strong results in each of these roles, these constant changes were not making me happy. And it wasn't really fair to employers either. So I recently hired a coach to make sure I identify a career path that actually fits with my talent zone. I'm today only attending interviews within the blah, blah, blah sector. So sales sector, for example, because I know that's where I see myself 10 years from now. Of course, all of these experiences in the past 2 years made this reflection easier. And I now have a series of key questions that I try to ask during each interview to be 100% sure that my next role is a sustainable one in the long run. With your permission, I hope I can have a change, or I hope I can ask you these questions at the end of our interview today. You see, I'm doing a lot of things with this script, but I'm trying to reassure the candidate, the employer or the recruiter, because number one, I'm saying I'm not happy. Myself, it's not something that made me happy. I went to the point of asking a coach. So this means I would be investing in this. It's truly a pain. Number three, I now have a solution. Okay. I'm only applying to the roles that are similar than yours. Number four, I see myself in the long run. I have designed a series of questions that I hope I can ask you later to make sure that, I see this role as a sustainable one for years to come. And you see, because I'm pushing or deflecting the answer to later, I'm transitioning towards, throughout the interview. Does it make sense? Really hope it makes sense, actually, because it feels a little bit lonely here. Don't hesitate to put a comment, please. That would be amazing. But I hope that this is helpful. Really hope this is helpful, everyone. So let me know. Listen, if you have any question, if you feel that I'm forgetting something big here, if you feel that there's another type of career setback, I don't think so. But if you feel that there's something else that haven't been sort of covering, that is not allowing you to get back on track, to get employed again, that's keeping you unemployed, please let me know. I will do something for you. I'm really doing these things for free. So please let me know. They are for you. These courses are 100% for you, and I really hope you can share them. The more you share them, the more we touch people, the more we help people. And this is really what we want. That's pretty much it. Listen, if you are looking for work at the moment and you just need some tips or free courses to write your CV, to get more employer phone calls or whatever, don't hesitate to send me a private message. I will definitely send you more resources, videos, and free courses that will help you write a powerful CV and get yourself more interviews, etc., etc. Don't hesitate to send me a private message. Yalla, I'll speak to you soon, and thank you so much. Have a great day ahead. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.